Hey listeners, this is Everett Maxine, the creator and host of The Absence of Her podcast. The podcast was birthed July 2019 in memory of my mother, who was found deceased June 19th, 2018. I share my life experiences to let others know they are not alone. Over the past few years, I spoke mainly from a place of pain during the beginning of my grief journey. As I am learning to navigate the journey and help listeners listen as well, I have relaunched to share more from a positive place of purpose. On all of my social media accounts, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, you can follow my handle, I am Everett Maxine. The podcast now has its own Instagram page, The Absence of Her podcast, and something new that you can follow, the AOH community. If you are a motherless daughter, or a woman or teen girl that has grown up in the home in the absence of a mother, please go to theabsenceofhercommunity.org and complete the entrance form. No matter where you are in the United States, I would like to know how you could benefit from community and connection. God has laid it upon my heart, and I believe this vision will come to fruition and many women and teen girls will be helped. If you enjoy this episode, like it, leave a comment, and most importantly, share. Simply share so that others know they're not alone. When I was younger, if there was a disagreement amongst people to choose sides, they would say blood is thicker than water. That just because we're connected by DNA, we must side with family. In current days, you will see the opposite. You'll see millions of TikTok videos and Snapchats and all the things where people are now posting about the trauma they have been experiencing of being forced to put family first. I know it's been a minute, but I'm getting back to the series, Pouring from an Empty Cup. And today we address part 2. Family. This episode, just like the last, I'll talk about the same 3 areas, but as it applies to family. Showing up, sacrifice, and support as a family member. Just a few weeks ago, one of my cousins sent me a text, and it basically was saying he was trying to convince me to come to this year's family reunion. Now, even though we're a black family from the country, it's more of an annual maternal family gathering than it is a true family reunion. We honor my grandmother who is in heaven. I'm 43 now. She passed away when I was around the age of 16. And so we used to have an annual birthday celebration for her. And so after she passed, they just started calling it a family reunion, still celebrating her birthday weekend. Most of my idea of a family reunion is like inviting distant cousins and a couple of generations of extended family. And we don't do that. It's just kind of a gathering of my mother's siblings. And my grandmother had 11 children. 10 of them lived. And now 5 are still living. Which there's only one aunt that may show. Another is a different faith. And so if she does show, it has to be late Saturday evening or on that Sunday. I have 3 uncles that remain, but most likely only 2 are going to show. And then it's my cousins, which most don't like to go to the country. And so, yeah, you can kind of figure out how that goes. So my first area I want to talk about is showing up. My problem about the family reunion is not necessarily about showing up, but the invitation and the feeling of inclusion. Now I'm one of those people, I can't go around you just because you're family. I'm not going to set aside time for somebody I don't feel connected with. My ex-husband used to say he didn't really care for holidays because on holidays, family act like, oh, we've been getting along all year long. And he's like, I'm not going to play pretend with you. And I agree. Like, I can't just force myself to show up if I haven't heard from you in months. And then when I do hear from you, it's not a positive situation. And the feeling of inclusion. I don't no matter where you go, especially with your own family, you don't want to feel like an outcast. You don't want to feel like a sore thumb. Not judging, but a lot of my cousins drink. I used to drink a lot. But it's just ain't much to do down there. And I just don't feel like I should force myself to do something that I feel uncomfortable doing. Now, mind you, the cousin that invited me, just like I have gone through therapy, he has too. I think we're the only two in our family that has truly gone through the mental health therapy process to really deal with some hard-hitting issues. We know our family has issues just like any other family. But there are some things that need to be addressed that our elders don't want to be addressed. And I saw something, it was on social media. And it says no one wants to deal with the healed version of you. Because if they deal with the healed version of you, they have to give more than mediocre. If they deal with the healed version of you, that means that they kind of have to do a self-reflection and say, what am I bringing to the table of this relationship? Because once you are healed and you have boundaries and you don't accept everybody's nonsense, they're going to have a problem with you. Showing up. So my mother passed in 2018, and every time we had this reunion, if someone had passed on, they would burn a candle, they'd say something in honor of them. And when my mom passed, they said nothing. They did nothing. They act like she wasn't even one of their siblings. Like, it was just very cold. It bothered me to my core. And even when I brought it up, they still didn't care that they did not acknowledge her. And our hometown is an hour and a half away south. Nobody in the family really lives there anymore. I have like one or two cousins that live there. But my grandmother's house is not livable. So if we go down there for 2-3 days, we have to pay for a hotel. And I'm just like, what's the point? We have to not only pay for a hotel, but we have to rent a building together as a family. With it just being a small amount of people, we would do better renting a space at a restaurant or just going out to eat together and not spending all of this money because there's no longer a big turnout. So, I mean, it's just different. When my grandmother was living and when my Aunt Rhonda was living, where the house was located in this small community, every time we had an event, our family was known for, letting people come because blood was not thicker than water. My grandmother treated people like they were family, whether they were or not blood related. And so the community got used to those events. And as my mom's siblings get older, they want to kind of restrict the events to family only. So it's just, I don't know. For me, I'm not about wasting money. I'm not about wasting time. If it's reasonable, I'll make time to do it. But on the flip side of that, as I'm talking about pouring from an empty cup, how much of myself should I be pouring out to show up for others if they don't show up for me? I'm a person that if we're not close, I'm really not going to feel some type of way if you don't show up for me, but don't throw a fit if I don't show up for you. Like, 1% of my family could probably tell you where I live at. And I'm not even talking about the physical address. I'm just talking about the city I live in. Sad, huh? 2020. I graduated from college to my bachelor's. I returned after my mom had passed away. And so I really pushed myself to graduate in the middle of all of the stuff that I went through in 2018. So if you haven't listened to my podcast, in 2018, my maternal grandmother passed away on May 28th. My mother was found deceased on June 19th. And I got my divorce by default November 5th. and a father figure in my childhood father figure died right at Thanksgiving. So it was a very difficult year, but I picked up the life insurance she left for me. I went back and finished my bachelor's degree so that I could have a career and a stable source of income as an educator. Excuse me. So it's 2020. Yeah, I know, COVID, all the things. But I decided to invite family for a celebration of not only my graduation, but my 40th birthday. I sent out several invites, not just to family, but people that I considered friends that might want to support me. And literally nobody came. I rented a hotel with two friends. And they had like a little graduation ceremony for me because Texas Southern at the last minute after I purchased my expensive cap and gown canceled the in-person graduation. They had already limited the amount of people that could come to like 2 or 3, and I couldn't even get 3 people to come. But that's okay, because I don't need a big crowd if they're not authentic. Some people, it matters about quantity over quality. That's not me. And it does bother some people that I am okay with being solo, but it's like, if you love you, it's okay to have friends and have girl trips and go out to clubs and all of the things. But if I like my peace and quiet and less drama, don't bother me about that. And then I think last year was my second annual blessings and brunch. And so I haven't been big on celebrating my birthday. I just really haven't. When I was married, we were always broke or something was a situation. And so because I love God and I know that's the best thing that I could give other people for my birthday, I've been inviting people to church for my birthday, and then afterwards we'll, go have dinner or whatever. Last year, not last year, 2023, because my birthday's in November, nobody came to church with me. Except for the church members that were already there that were invited to the brunch. And then the year before, I had a couple of cousins show. But it's just like, they want me to show up to their events. But when I invite them to mine, they're no show. And then when I don't show, of course, I get critiqued and get criticism. So next area, sacrifice. Like, we really got to quit putting expectations on people to sacrifice just because, as I talked about in part 1, because they're friends and because they're family. I hate when people say, but we're family. So what? So I'm supposed to sacrifice my peace and sanity because we're family? That's absolutely crazy to expect somebody to accept your nonsense just because we share the same blood. Because we're family, I'm supposed to loan out money and never expect it to be returned? That's crazy. Like, stop telling people that they should sacrifice because they love you and because you're family. Like, that's a bunch of poppycock. And what it really boils down to, especially when people are sacrificing their peace, sanity, and comfort, is it ends up being trauma. I saw a girl I used to work with post that she wasn't going to make her kids hug the auntie or the creepy uncle that everybody tells them to keep their kids away from. And you know what that uncle has done to some of the kids in the family. That's trauma. Because we're family, an uncle may molest the child or whatever, and because we're family, we don't report him to the authorities. And we still expect her to come around the family like it's normal. That's trauma. That's some deep generational trauma that keeps happening. And we keep using because we're family. Like, stop doing that. Let people heal. Let people have their peace. Because we're family, I love you enough to want what's best for you. Because we're family, if you set boundaries, I'm going to respect them. Because we're family, if you hold me accountable, I'm going to self-reflect. Why can't we be in that headspace? Like, can we get past